So right. Today we are going to discuss about asynchronous operations and future methods. So, are the people are comfortable with the triggers? Now, purpose of the triggers is clear for everyone. When do you write the triggers? What is the purpose of the trigger? Are you comfortable with the trigger concept? Right. Now let us go to the next one. We are trying to discuss about. We are trying to job. This is the standard object. Async apex job. It's the standard object. Any asynchronous operations running in the Salesforce will be registered with this object. Any asynchronous operation running in the Salesforce will be registered with this object. Any asynchronous operation running in the Salesforce will be registered with this object. Any asynchronous operation running in the Salesforce will be registered with this object. Okay. Now look at the format. When you're taking this, what will be the ID of the job, type of the asynchronous operation? Is there a queue? Is there a future? Is there a batch? Is there a schedule? What is the name of the class? What is the name of the method? What is the current status? This type of data will be there. So if anybody is running any asynchronous operation, that will be registered with async apex job. Are you getting my point? Look at the point. Now, this is the apex code. When you are executing this apex code, asynchronous code, it will go to an object called job ID. Name of the job, type of the job, class, status, this will be there. The moment you run the code, it will go there and register a job. Let us say we got a job ID called 001. That is an example. Type. Now, with the help of this job ID, we'll be referring to this job and knowing the status of the job. So once it is registered with async apex job, any asynchronous operation that is running, that will be registered with async apex job. Any asynchronous operation that is running, that will be running with async apex job. Any asynchronous job that is running, that will be registered with async apex job. That will be registered with async apex job. Now once you are calling a code, it will go to that object, register a job. Once you register, we are getting a code. Once you get the code, based on the job ID, we will know the status of the job. If I want to stop the job, based on the ID, I will stop it. Are you getting my point? So the tracking of the job, the stopping of the job will be done with the job ID. So once again, I repeat, any asynchronous operation that is running in the Salesforce, any asynchronous operation that is running in the Salesforce will be registered with async apex job object. Any asynchronous operation that is running in the Salesforce will be registered with async apex job object. Once you registered, you get a job ID. Based on the job ID, we can track the status or we can abort the job. Am I clear with this? This is, if I want to know the status, what I do? I write a SQL query on this object, find out the status. Is that was clear? Okay. Now, try to understand the first concept. What is the first concept we have? Future method. Right. What is this feature method? Let me give you a basic example. Right. We have these people want to make a call. Now let us say it's a telephone booth. At a time, how many people can get into this booth? Only one person. One person has to go inside, make a call, disconnect the call, then only second person will get the turn. Again, when second person completed, third person will get. So unless this guy complete the call, second person will not get the turn. Am I right or not? Only one person at a time he can go and talk. This guy, he want to speak for 1 minute. This guy, he want to speak for 1 minute. This guy want to speak for 2 minutes. Then this guy, he want to talk to his girlfriend. Again, 1 minute. Now, this guy want to talk to his wife. Talk or listen, boss? It will be listen only. Right. Right. Now, these people are waiting in the queue. Now, what happened? This guy went inside, 1 minute, done. This guy went inside, 2 minutes, done. This fellow went inside, 1 hour, boss. Right. It took 1 hour. Okay, after 1 hour he came out, then he went, fellow went 1 minute, then he went, it's 30 minutes. So, without marriage, how do you know, boss? Right. Now, get inside, in 30 minutes, then he came 1 minute. Now, what happened? Because of two fellows, the last guy who is waiting, he has to wait in the queue for almost 1 hour, 30 minutes to get his complete work done. He just need to make a call and say, boss, good night and come. Only 1 minute he need. Just for the sake of 1 minute, he was waiting in the queue for almost 1 hour, 30 minutes. You just want to make a call and say good night and come back. Just a 1 minute call you want to make. For the sake of 1 minute call, he was waiting in the queue for 1 hour, 30 minutes. Now, it is not because of everybody. It is only because of these two fellows. These two people took 1 hour time and 30 minutes time. Only because of these two people, the operation got delayed. Only because of these two people, the operation got delayed. Right. Now, they told, boss, in this, if anybody want to talk for a longer time, then they told, don't stand in the queue and wait, okay, along with us, you run separate. They told, boss, you run like one operation, you run this as another operation, you run this as another operation. So at a time, how many operations are running? 3 operations. Now, as you are running separately, they gave 2 mobile phones. Boss, you take this mobile and talk separately, take this mobile and talk separately. Now, there are 3 people making a call. One in the regular booth, 2 other people are running. Now, this guy take 1 hour, no problem. You take 1 hour because nobody is dependent. Even if you are delayed, no issue because you are running separate. Now, you take 30 minutes, no problem. Even you are delayed also, no problem because there is no dependency. Now, this person, he can finish the work within 5 minutes and come back. So, what is the problem here? When you are executing any transaction, there are any long-running operations are there. There are any statements which are taking more time. In the long-running operation, if there are any statements which take longer time, then run those statements independently so that rest of the operation will not be delayed. If I want to run them independently, there should not be any dependency. Let us take this. Now, you are speaking to, let us say, some Divya. Divya's father is on the back. Right. Now, the question is, now, if I run this fellow independently also, no use. Why? Only when you disconnect the call, you can make a call. When you disconnect the call, then only you can make a call. Even though you are running independently, okay, there is no use. Why? Because this guy has to depend upon this call. So unless he disconnects the call, I cannot make a call. So which statements I can run independently? Only those statements which doesn't have dependency. If any one of the statements in the transaction taking more time and they are independent from previous statements or next statements, then I can run them independently so that it can run operation quickly. This concept is called future method. So running the long running operations independently from the rest of the transaction. Now the question is, what are those long running operations? One is web service calls. Web service call means I am making a request to third party. Third party has to give a response to me. I am making a request to third party. Third party is going to give a response. When I say delayed, it will not take 1 hour, 20 minutes like that. Maybe 30 seconds or 40 seconds is also a delay. When you open a website, if it takes 10 seconds to load, immediately what will you say? Performance is slow. We try to open a website, it is taking 10 seconds to open it. Then we say internet connection is not good. Now, delayed operation. Now, which operation? Web service. When I'm making a call to third party, they're giving the response in 60 seconds. So it's a delayed operation. I am trying to perform a DML operation. I have 30,000 records which I am trying to upload. Then what happened? If you are trying to perform DML on 10,000 records, if you are trying to insert 10,000 records, it takes more time. If you are trying to insert 10,000 records, it takes more time. So any records, any data which is taking more time. When you take more time, when you are trying to perform DML on group of records, 100 records we are trying to delete, 1,000 records we are trying to upload, okay, 5,000 records we are trying to update, then it takes more time. So what are the long running operation? Web service calls, bulk DML operation. What are these long running operations? Web service calls, long running operations, web service calls and bulk DML operation. Long running operations and okay, what are they? Web service calls and bulk DML operation. They are going to take more time. So let me demonstrate this example for you. Let me demonstrate. Then I have call me. Now tell me, what is the order of the execution? What is the order of execution? Okay, when I run this show 1, show 2, call me 1, call me 2, call me 3, show 3, show 4, invoke 1, invoke 2, okay, invoke 3, show 5, show 6. Show 1, show 2, call me 1, call me 2, call me 3, show 3, show 4, invoke 1, invoke 2, invoke 3, show 5, show 6. It is a sequential operation. So let me execute and show you. Execute. Go back to the debug only. What is the output we are getting here? Show 1, show 2, show 3, call me 1, show 1, show 2, call me 1, call me 2, call me 3, show 3, show 4, invoke 1, invoke 2, invoke 3, show 5, show 6. Because it's a synchronous operation. It is a sequential operation. But I want to make this as asynchronous operation. How can you make the method as asynchronous operation? at the rate of future. At the rate of future. Then it should be static. Future. I'm making the method as what? Static. If you want to define any method as a static, method has to be defined with annotation at the rate of future. What is the annotation? At the rate of future. Method has to be static. Run type should be void. Method has to be at the rate of future. Okay. Return type should be void. Method should be static. At the rate of future, method should be static. Return type should be void. We'll go back. Go back and see. What was that? Show 1, show 2, show 3, show 4, 5, 6. So all the shows are running separately. Why? This is a future method. It is going to run independently. Invoke. It is a future method. It is also going to run independently. Go back here. Invoke 1, invoke 2, invoke 3. One running separately, rest of the statements in the show are running separately. So how many operations are running? Yeah, any statements are taking longer time, then the statements which are taking longer time, they are going to be the statements which are going to take longer time. The statements which are going to take longer time, those are executed like a asynchronous operation. So what we do at the rate of future. What we do at the rate of future. Now, if you want to define at the rate of future, what we are going to do was at the rate of future, method should be static. At the rate of future, method should be static. What is the return type? Void. What is the return type? Void. Return type is void. I hope you are good with this. Clear? So how to define a future method? At the rate of future, and method should be static. Return type should be void. Parameters. It can only take primitive parameters. No S object will be accepted. S objects will not be accepted. Only primitive members will be taken. S objects will not be accepted. Only primitive members will be taken. I hope you are good with this. Clear? Okay. Now, concept is clear. Now, let us see this one. It is a feature. When I call a feature method, it will go to it will register the job here, right? Now it is going to have ID. Job will be registered. But what is the return type of feature method? So when you call this, will it give any return value? So job is registered there, job is going to run, but the ID of the job will not be given to you. Why? Because you have a method with the return type void. Job will be registered there, but the ID of the job will not be given to you. If you know the ID of the job, easy for you to track the status. If you know ID of the job, easy for you to track the status. Because I am not giving the ID of the job, it is difficult for me to track the status. Right? Are you clear about this? So what is the drawback of feature method? Method will not return job ID. Second, future method will not accept S object. Future method will not accept S object as a parameter. Why it will not accept? Why the future method will not accept the S object as a parameter? Let us take a quick example here. is a future method. Let's say right. Now, what is the value of ACC? Wipro and Hyderabad. When you call a future method, what happened? Register with job ID. Let us see. Pass S object as a parameter. Why? Because you may run immediately, may not run immediately. You may run immediately or may not run immediately. You may run immediately or may not run immediately. I hope you're good. You may run immediately or you may not run immediately. I hope you're good with this one. Clear? I hope you're clear with this, right? Okay. Now, there is a reason don't accept S object. So what are the drawbacks? Future method will not give you job ID. It will be registered. ID you will get, but you're not going to give me that ID. If you give me that ID, I can go and find out the status very easily. You're not giving that ID, so there is one drawback. Second, it will not accept S object as parameter. Third one, within the feature method, I cannot call another feature method. Within the feature method, I cannot call another feature method. Let us say if I have future method cannot call within the future method. So how many drawbacks we have? 3 drawbacks. One is future method will not return you the ID of the job. Second one is future method will not accept S object as a parameter. Third one is future method cannot be called within the future method. Right. What is the basic purpose of future method? If there are any long running operations which are taking long time, then instead of running those operations, we can run along with the transaction, we can run them independently. But if you want to run them independently, there should not be any dependencies. There should not be any dependencies. There should not be any dependencies. I hope you're good. But while implementing this at the rate of future, method has to be static. Method, runtime should be void. Method can accept any primitive data members except S objects. S objects are not accepted because the asynchronous operations will not be executed immediately. They'll be added to the queue. From the queue, they are going to be executed. So I am not sure when they are going to be executed because they are in the queue. I am not sure when they are going to be executed. I hope you are good. Clear for everyone? Then tell me one use case where we can use the future method. Future methods are used to implement mixed DML exception. There is a concept called mixed DML exception. Whenever you want to resolve mixed DML exceptions, we will go for a concept called future method. Now, what is this mixed DML concept? What is this mixed DML? We need to understand. Future methods are used to handle the long running operation. The other one is handling mixed DML exception. What is this mixed DML exception? How do you resolve it? Let's make it very simple. First, let me give you generalized discussion to get the concept. Let us say I have 4 people. I'm just giving this to get the concept right. Let us say Shyam, Divya, these are the 4. There are 4 friends available. Let us understand the concept generally. We'll come back to technically. There are 4 people involved. There are 4 of them are friends. They schedule a plan. Let us say on Saturday they had a plan. Let us say at 1 o'clock they want to go for some lunch. Then they want to go for some movie at 2 o'clock. This is a schedule which they plan for next Saturday. A group of friends are there. This group of friends have scheduled this plan. On Saturday, next Saturday, they had a plan this. Now, Shyam on Wednesday received a mail. They told there is a deployment on Saturday. Then he asked his friends, boss, let us postpone this plan to Sunday. Now, they already planned for an event on Saturday. Now, on Wednesday, Shyam received a mail. There is a deployment on Saturday. Then Shyam told there is a change in my schedule. Okay, there is a change in my schedule. On Saturday, I was occupied with my deployment. Can we move it to Sunday? What the team members will say, other friends? Not necessary. We can go on Sunday, some other movie. Let's continue with Saturday. Okay, right. So the Shyam schedule modified, team schedule is not modified. No impact on team. Divya on Saturday at 12:55 p.m. she made a call. She told, we'll cancel the movie today and go tomorrow. Then what team members will say? No problem. We'll go on Sunday. Right. Now what happened? Any change in the Divya plan is impacting the team plan. Any change in the Shyam plan is not impacting the team plan. Now here, Shyam and Ram are called non-setup objects. Divya and Kavya are called setup objects. That means any change happens on these objects that will impact the permissions of other people. You make any changes on this, nobody is going to be influenced. No impact on any other. If any change occurs here, small change occurs here, it will impact the permissions of the users on the database. The objects on which, I hope you got my point. Now, you make any changes on Shyam and Ram, no impact on the team. But if you make a change on Divya Kavya, there is impact on the team. So, objects on which, if I make any changes, objects on which if I make any DML, if they impact the permissions of the users on the database, they are called setup objects. Objects on which if you make a DML, they will impact the permissions of the users on the records of the database, then they are called setup objects. The objects on which if I make a DML, they will not impact the permissions on the database. They are called non-setup objects. I hope you are good. Now at a time, both of them can make a changes? No. When both of them are there, when setup object, then you can setup role. When I am here, you cannot make a non-setup operations. Okay, in a single method, you cannot make DML on setup and non-setup object because it's going to impact the permissions. So in a single method, either I can make a DML on setup or I can make a DML on non-setup. Both of them, if you are trying to perform, it will throw mixed DML exception. Now, what is that mixed DML exception? If you are trying to make a DML operation on setup objects and non-setup objects together within a single method, then they are going to throw an exception called mixed DML exception. If you are getting a mixed DML exception, we are going to resolve it by using what? We are going to resolve it by using future method. Right. Tell me some of the setup objects. Let me show that. What are the objects we have? Field permissions, group member, field permissions, group member, object permission set assignment, queue, object territory. These are what? Setup objects. Except this, rest all are non-setup. Out of these, generally what we use? Object permission, field permission, group member, permission set, user, territory. These are generally used objects. Object permission, field permissions, group member, then we have user, territory, permission set. These are frequently used objects. So, except this, rest all the objects are called non-setup. I hope you got my point. Am I clear with that? Am I clear with this? So what was the question here? If you are trying to perform a DML operation on setup and non-setup objects together, then we are going to get a error called mixed DML exception. We are going to get an error called mixed DML exception. Mixed DML exception. I hope you are good with this. Let me show an example of this. User is a setup or non-setup? User is a setup or non-setup? User is a setup. Account is a setup or non-setup? Non-setup. Now, I was trying to make a example here. Trying to create I'm trying to insert the user. Write a query, get the profile, get the role, trying to create a user, alias, email. When you're trying to create a then profile ID, username, now what was this? Trying to insert a user. User is a setup object. At the same time, trying to insert account. This is how we have created. So what was the bug here? Comma is missing. Right. Now what I was trying to do, insert a user, insert a user, insert a account. Both we are trying to make a DML within the static method. No, invalid email address. No, duplicate username. There are too many errors. No. What is the operation we got here? Mixed DML operation. Why? We are trying to make a DML on user, trying to make a DML on account. One is setup object, another one is non-setup object. If you are trying to perform a DML on setup object and non-setup object together, then it is going to throw an exception called mixed DML exception. How do you resolve it? Then take one of the operation. Future. Now, if I define as a future, that is going to run independently, right? Future method is going to run independently. Now, because both of them are running together, we have a problem. Because we have both of them are running together, we had a problem. Both of them are running together, that is why we have a problem. Okay. Because both of them are running together, we have a problem. Now, when I say future method, what happened? Account will be inserted, user will be inserted, but they are running separately. As they are running separately, issue will be resolved. As they are running separately, issue will be resolved. I hope you are clear. If both of them are running together, we have an issue. So we are defining one of the operation in the future so that it will run independently. So go and execute. The issue was resolved. I hope you are good with this. The issue is, if both of them are running together, we had an issue. If both of them are running together, we had an issue. If both of them are running together, we had an issue. Right? To handle this issue, what we have done? We have defined one of the operation in future. As we define one of the operation, once okay, as we defined this operation separately using a future method, both of them are running, but they are running independently. I hope you are good. Clear for everyone? Any query on this? Right. Are you clear about this? Both of them are running, but they are running independently. Both of them are running, but they are running independently. I hope you are good with this. Any further queries from your end? Any further queries from your end? Any further queries from your end? Clear? So what is the mixed DML? If you are trying to perform a DML operation, okay, on a setup object and non-setup objects together, it is going to throw an exception called mixed DML exception. What are setup objects? Objects on which, if you make a DML, they'll impact the permissions of the users on the database. They are called setup objects. What are non-setup objects? Objects on which we are making a changes. Objects on which if you make a DML, they will not impact the permissions of others. They are called non-setup object. Example, account, contact, opportunity, account, contact, opportunity, X, Y, Z. What are setup objects? Objects on which if you make a DML, they will impact the permissions of the user. What are they? User, permission set, object permission, field permission, group member, okay, territory, user territory, this type of objects. How do you resolve it? By using mixed DML exception. How do you resolve it? By using mixed DML exception. How do you resolve it? By using mixed DML exception. I hope you are good with this. Clear for everyone? Clear for everyone? Am I clear? Any query from your end? Concept is clear? Concept is clear? Okay. Now, where we are going to use, except apart from mixed DML exception, where else we can use it? I told you long running operations. You want to make a DML on 5,000 records at a time, then I go for a feature method. Then in the trigger, if you want to call, right now let us see. If I have a trigger, okay. Now if you have a trigger in the trigger web service, in the trigger we cannot write a web service. In the trigger we cannot make a web service. Okay, if you want to call a web service from the trigger, then what happened? We are going to use feature method. You cannot call web services. You cannot call web services directly within a trigger. You cannot call web services directly from the trigger. If you want to call a web service directly from the trigger, you have to go for feature method. One more, calling web services from the trigger is allowed with the help of feature. Now, if you want to call a web service from schedule Apex, again feature. So what is that? Whenever we want to call asynchronous web services, we will use feature. Whenever we want to handle long running operations, whenever we are running long running operations, again we go for feature. Whenever we want to handle mixed DML exception, we'll go for feature. Tell me some use cases: handling long running operation, handling asynchronous web service calls, or handling mixed DML exception. I hope you are good with this. Am I good with this? Clear for everyone? Clear for everyone? Am I clear? Okay. Let us go to the next one. If you are good with this example, I'll go to the next example. People are good? Clear? Write one feature method, cancel. Write a feature method. Create a feature method, cancel. Create a feature method. Create a feature method, cancel. Create a feature method, cancel. How did you define? At the rate of feature, public, static, void, This is what I'm giving. Right? Okay. Now, if you want to call web services, I'd give call out equal to. If I want to give web services, we'll give call out equal to 2. If I give web services, call out equal to 2. If I give web services at the rate of call out equal to 2. Web service program you want to write in the future, I would give at the rate of future call out equal to 2. I hope you're good. Right. Now, let us get into the theoretical information. I'll quickly pass the theoretical information. Let us see. Now, look at this format. The theoretical information. If a transaction has any long-running operations or long-running statements, and if this operation is, if the statements are independent from or independent from rest of the statements, then we run the statements. If the transaction has any long-running statements, and if the statements doesn't have any dependency on rest of the statements, then we can run them long-running operation. Independently. Rest of the transaction. How we can run them independently from the rest of the transaction? How can we run them independently from the rest of the transaction? By using feature method. What are those long-running operations? Web service calls, bulk daemon operation. How do we define a feature method? At the rate of feature, static. Okay, then the runtime should be void, and only primitive variables are passed. If you want to call any web service, at the rate of feature, call out equal to. Now, any asynchronous operation that is running, that will be registered with async apex job object. Now, this is a beta version, but still never improved. It's still a beta version. This point is still beta version. Okay. Then we have given an example how the execution goes on. Line 1, line 2, line 3, feature method 1, feature method 2, feature method 3. Line 4, line 5, feature method 1, feature method 2, feature method 3, line 6. Because synchronous operation. The same thing if I define it as at the rate of future, then it's going to be line 1, line 2, line 3, 4, 5, 6. Future 1, future 2, future 3. Okay. Done. That's what I gave here. Mixed DML exception. DML operation performed on some of the objects are referred as setup objects. Setup objects. DML operations on which DML operation on these S objects will affect the record level access for the user. Any change that you make on these objects that will impact the permissions on the record for the user. What are they? Group of objects. Non-setup objects. Objects on which if you make a DML, they will not show any impact on the permissions. They're called non-setup objects. What is mixed DML? If you try to perform a DML operation on setup and non-setup together, then they throw an exception called mixed DML exception. So how do you handle it? By using future method. How do you handle it? By using future method. First I have given without future method, it will throw mixed DML exception. Second one I gave with the future method, it will resolve mixed DML exception. I hope you are good with this. Okay. Then what are the drawbacks? Future method will not return job ID. Future method cannot be called within the future method. Future method will not support S object as parameter. What is the limitation? 50 future methods can be called within a transaction. 50 future methods can be called within a transaction. Within one transaction, I can invoke 50. Okay. Within a same method, I can call 50 methods. But within a future, I cannot call future. Within non-future method, I can call 50 future methods. Okay. Now, at a time, how many future methods can run? 50 future methods can run. At a time, how many can run? 50 can run. Right. Use cases. Some of the use cases I gave. Then I gave workaround cases. There is some problem with the future method and workaround solution. In the future method, S objects, workaround use cases. If you want to pass S object as a parameter, future method will not accept. If you want to pass S object as a parameter, if you want to pass S object as a parameter, if you want to pass S object as a parameter, future method will not accept. If you have to pass S object as a parameter, then what we do? We will use JSON. Convert the S object into string and pass it. Or else we will pass ID of the record. Instead of passing the record, we will pass ID of the record. This is the workaround procedure. This we are going to discuss in the integration. This will be useful to you in the level of integration. Right. So if you want to pass a list of record, how do you pass? List of records cannot be passed to a future method. Then if you have to pass a list of record, how do you pass? Convert the list of records into JSON string or XML string, pass the string value. Those people will deserialize. This is one workaround procedure I have given. Then other use cases, invoking a web service from Trigger, invoking a web service from ScheduleFX, or handling bulk DML operation, handle mixed DML operation. These are some of the use cases where I am going to use feature. Right. Probably this will be the question will be asked in the interview. How to pass a list of records? How to pass a list of records? How to pass a list of record as a parameter? Future will not accept list, but my requirement says you have to pass. Then we have a solution of JSON. Use the JSON, convert the list of record into JSON string, pass it. The people who received, they will convert the JSON string into list of records and use it. This is one of the procedures. I hope the concept is clear, right? Okay. Let us get into the next concept, Queueable Apex. What is this Queueable Apex? Queueable Apex is also like a future method only. But future is a method, Queueable is a class. Now, how to make a class as a Queueable? Public class example. Public class example Queueable. Public class example implements Queueable. Public class implements Queueable. Public class example implements Queueable. Public class example implements Queueable. Now, what is this concept? When a class want to implement an interface, When a class is implementing an interface called Qubul, then this become Qubul Apex. When a class implement a Qubul interface, then the class become Qubul Apex. When a class implement a Qubul interface, then the class become Qubul Apex. Now the question is, if a class is implementing any interface, it has to define all the methods which are there in the interface. So what are the methods we have? Public, void, execute. When a class implement Qubul interface, then we are going to define a method called execute. Then we are going to define a method called execute. Now, any class which implements an interface, any class which implements an interface, any class which implements an interface, any class which implements an interface has to define every method in the interface. Now, in the Qubul interface, what is the method we have? Execute method. In the Qubul interface, what is the method we have? Execute method. In the execute method, what we do? We write the logic. In the Qubul method, what we do? We have logic. If a class want to implement Qubul interface, if a class want to implement Qubul interface, if a class want to implement Qubul interface, it has to define a method called execute. It has to define a method called execute. It has to define a method interface. It has to define a method called execute. Are you clear about this? It has to define a method called execute. In the execute, what will be there? Whatever the logic you want to implement, right? Okay. Now write a Qubul Apex, which will delete all the records created today. Then how did you write? Public void execute Qubul context. Public class Q example implements Qubul. Class Q example implements Qubul. Public class Q example implements Qubul. Then I'm trying to get all the accounts which are created. This is the queueable context. Now I wrote a queue which deletes all the records which are created last week. Now write one more queue, create a queue which will get all the opportunities created in the last week. Write a queue which will fetch all the opportunities. Write a queue which will fetch all the opportunities which are created in the last week. Which will fetch all the opportunities. Which will fetch all the opportunities which are created in the last week. Opportunities which are created in the last week and change their status as closed one. Sorry. Opportunity up list. Now, done. Is that was done? Okay. Now, how do you execute this? If you want to execute it, few examples. Whatever the class which implemented a Kubel interface, create an object for it. ID dot job ID equal to system dot enqueue. How are you executing? System dot enqueue job object. Whichever the class which implemented a Kubel interface, 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 that class object should be created. Then I have to say system.enqueue job object. How to execute asynchronous operation? Asynchronous Kubel effects. System.enqueue queue, system.enqueue job, system.enqueue job object of the class. Whichever the class which implemented Kubel interface, whichever the class which implemented Kubel interface, whichever the class which implemented Kubel interface, okay, the object of the class should be created. Then we have to say system.enqueue job, system.enqueue job. I hope you are good. People are good. People are good with this. People are good with this. I hope everybody is good with this. Now, what is the advantage of going for this queue? This is also asynchronous. Future is also asynchronous. Then why are you going for? Why are you going for this? Future is also asynchronous. This is also asynchronous. Then why class? If it is a future, number of methods we can write. If it is a Kubel, only one method, which is called execute. Are you getting? Done. Look at the advantage. Is it giving the ID of the job? It is giving the ID of the job. First advantage. Second advantage, it can take S object also. Third advantage, queue can be called within a queue. I can call a queue within the queue. I can call a queue within the queue. I can call a queue within a queue. Can I call a future within a future? No. But queue can be called within a queue. So the advantage of Kubel job is queue can be called within a queue. So now I have 4 jobs. When you say run them as asynchronous, 4 will run independently, separately. At a time, 4 jobs will run. At a time, 4 jobs will run separately. But what is my requirement? They have to run independently. But first, job 1 should complete. After completing the job 1, job 2 should start. After completing the job 2, job 3 should start. They should run asynchronously, but one after the other. Generally, when you say asynchronous, what happened? There are 4 jobs, 4 will run at a time. 4 will run independently, 4 will run at a time. What is your requirement? They have to run asynchronously, but they have to run one after the other. Then I will go for queue. In the queue, what happened? In the first queue, call the second queue. In the second queue, call the third queue. Third queue, call the fourth queue. How they are running? One after the other. So if you want to run job one after the other, asynchronously, queue will be helpful. Apart from this, rest all the places, I'll use only future. Are you getting? The only core objective of going for a queue is, if you want to run asynchronous operation one after the other, then I will go for queue. In rest all the places, I'll use what? Future. Because both of them are same. It is easy for me to define a method compared to a class. So, future, queue, both of them are asynchronous. Future and queue, both of them are asynchronous. Now, future or queue, both of them are asynchronous. Future or queue or both of them are asynchronous. Future or queue, both of them are asynchronous. But future will be called within a, cannot be called within a future. Queue can be called within a queue. Queue can be called within a queue. Future cannot be called within a future. If you want to run the jobs one after the other, queue will be helpful. Whereas the future, it is not possible. The only advantage is chaining of job. First job followed by second, second job followed by third. Chaining of job is there. There is an advantage. Am I clear with this? People are good. People are good with this. That's all from mine for the day. We'll continue tomorrow.